Hello everybody, this is Hector again with another video. This time I will be reviewing the film World War C. Of course, just like all my previous reviews, this one will also be spoiler free. Okay, I saw this movie a few months ago, and at the time, well, I actually liked it. It didn't blow me away, it wasn't as good as I had expected, but it didn't suck, I didn't hate it. And, well, I think that's actually a problem. All these months later, thinking back on the whole thing, I find myself liking the movie less and less. What I'm basically trying to say is that in retrospect, it was just an average movie. It was just okay. That's exactly what the problem was. Well, at least the main problem. Maybe I expect too much from movies sometimes, but I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. We should all expect something special when we go to the movies, shouldn't we? Anyway, before I actually start talking about the plot of the movie, let me say up front that I will not be making any comparisons to the book the movie is supposedly based on. Yes, there is a book called World War C, written by Max Brooks. And from what I have read about it, it's a very good book, basically detailing a worldwide war with zombies told from the point of view of many different people. Of course, turning something like that into a movie would be impractical, so a lot was changed from the book. But again, I've never read it, so the hell with it, I'm just reviewing the movie. The movie opens with some news footage from around the world and also what appear to be clips from nature films, describing hunting behavior in wild animals, how violent it is, etc. I'm not sure what the filmmakers were trying to tell us with that scene. Was it foreshadowing? Were they trying to tell us that the zombies would later turn into predatory animals themselves? Maybe, but the movie's PG-13, so that never happens. We never see a zombie taking a huge bite out of somebody and blood all over the place, not even close. That is all left for the wolf in the nature film. Well, the wolf doesn't kill people, just other animals, but you know what I mean. We never see that type of viciousness replicated by any of the zombies. We then quickly cut to another scene that introduces the main characters. We meet Jerry Lane, played by Brad Pitt. It's early morning and we see him in his house having breakfast with his wife and kids. Apparently he used to work for the United Nations and is quite familiar with disaster scenarios, but is no longer involved in that kind of work. As everybody is having breakfast, the television is showing news footage of riots and such in some other country. I guess all those clips of news footage is preparing us, the audience, for the disaster scenario that's about to happen. Anyway, this particular scene was good, but it was just too perfect, too cliché. What I mean by that is, we see the main character and he has a beautiful wife and two perfect, good-looking kids, and he lives in a beautiful home and everybody's happy, having breakfast and laughing and getting ready to go on a road trip or something. I guess I've just seen too many movies, but that seems like a cheap attempt at making the audience scare. Because people with families who see this movie will somehow relate to it, or even if they don't, they will definitely care about a perfect happy family being chased around by zombies, which is exactly what happens later on. And of course, nobody wants to see them get hurt, right? Nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it's all just pandering to the audience. Anyway, Jerry and his perfect, happy family eventually get on their minivan and go on their road trip or whatever, and they get stuck in traffic. At first it seems like the usual traffic jam, but soon Jerry suspects that something else is going on, and he steps out of his vehicle. But a policeman quickly tells him to get back in the minivan. The policeman is later run over by a large, out-of-control garbage truck, which later crashes into other cars up the street. Soon after, we hear people screaming and running in all directions. Nobody appears to know what is going on, but panic seems to make everybody start running away in fear. Minutes later, nothing short of total chaos ensues, because of course, this is when zombies first attack, and we understand that they are the cause of everything that's happening. Jerry and his family manage to escape and later hide in a building. Hours later, they go up to the roof and a helicopter arrives to rescue them. Apparently, Jerry still had connections from his previous line of work and managed to request a helicopter. As they are flown to an aircraft carrier out in the middle of the ocean, we briefly get to see all the chaos and destruction down in the city. It was a powerful scene and it shows for the first time how serious the situation is. But that's only up to that point, because once Jerry and his family arrive on the aircraft carrier, we understand that things are much, much worse. He's informed that whatever is happening is no small-scale attack, but worldwide. And of course, this whole global zombie apocalypse brings him back to his old job and puts him back to work in a way. At first, he refuses, saying he has to stay with his family and protect them, but he's forced back into the job when he's told that if he doesn't help, he will be thrown off the aircraft carrier along with his family. Kind of a shady move, however, he has no choice but to agree. And so he joins a paramilitary group and some scientists or researchers and starts a search around some parts of the world looking for, well, whatever the hell started the zombie war, or Patient Zero, quote unquote, the first person that turned into a zombie, basically. Jerry's first stop is South Korea, where he goes into a military installation. Apparently, an email was sent from that installation that actually mentioned zombies. He's taken to a room, or what appears to be a prison cell. There's 2 beds and a few human bodies that appear to be burned to ashes. That's exactly where it all started, it seems. I can't remember all the details because a lot of information was given in the span of a few minutes, but I think a wounded soldier was brought in for treatment, and he was the first to turn into a zombie, God knows why. That's pretty much it. The rest of the movie takes us to other parts of the world as the search for answers continues. Now, I mentioned before how this movie was just okay and how I wasn't crazy about it, so I will explain why. Actually, now that I think about it, this movie probably had more problems than I realized. In a moment I will talk briefly about the positives. Yes, some things were done very well with this movie, but it wasn't enough. And so, let's talk about the negatives. First, the movie was rated PG-13. That was a mistake. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate PG-13 movies. Some of the best movies ever made are PG-13, movies like Jurassic Park, Inception, Titanic, etc. So the problem is not with the rating. My problem is that a movie called World War C, about a worldwide zombie apocalypse, is rated PG-13. It just doesn't make sense. A zombie movie has to be first and foremost a horror movie. It has to have gore, strong language, violence, and yes, lots of blood. It just has to. That's what makes a zombie movie scary. And this movie, well, it took a different approach. It tried to focus more on action, suspense, and cheap scares. Second, the movie is not very well directed. A lot of scenes in the movie take place at night, and it's very hard to see what's going on. That is unacceptable. Just because a movie takes place at night doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to see anything. A good director and or cinematographer knows how to do it right. Just look at Terminator 2 or Jurassic Park or even Fight Club. That's what I'm talking about. This movie does a terrible job when it comes to showing scenes at night. Also, some of the action scenes, especially in the beginning of the movie, are shot in extreme close-ups, and the camera shakes constantly. That is a terrible combination because it's very difficult for the audience to understand what's going on. Movies are shot in widescreen for a reason. They are supposed to be panoramic, not zoomed in so much that it makes you feel that you are watching television from 2 inches away. It makes no sense. Also, the story was very simple, yes, but it could have been told much better. The director just takes us from one disaster scene to another without much preparation or reflection after it happens. For example, the best part of the movie takes place about halfway through. It takes place in Israel, and also aboard a large commercial plane that takes off from the city. That part of the movie is great, and it almost saves the film on its own, but nothing happens before that to prepare us or build a suspense, at least in the right way, for that part of the movie. And nothing happens afterwards to make us reflect about what happened or let it sink in. The movie just moves on like not much happened. Finally, I had a problem with the story overall. I already mentioned how the director did a terrible job at taking us from one scene to another, but that's only part of the problem. I believe the entire movie, the entire story, takes place too quickly. We go from happy family life to zombies suddenly attacking, to getting away, to fighting zombies, and looking for a way to stop them, and then to the end of the movie. We basically see the start of a zombie world war, and then we see it end as quickly as it began. The ending almost seems to come out of nowhere, and gives the whole movie an all too perfect happy ending. You almost get the feeling that it wasn't really earned. Yes, it was original, but something about it just didn't feel right. Also, I didn't like the idea that zombies didn't attack everyone. Yes, it's true, they do not attack everyone. Apparently the zombies in this movie would actually leave a few people alone. I'm not giving anything away, we actually see that in the trailer. That takes away some of their menace because that's what's scary about zombies. They are supposed to come after you no matter what and try to kill you. The movie does explain why they do not attack everyone, but talking about it here would be spoiling the movie, so I won't. Anyway, the movie also goes on to imply that there might even be a sequel, but it doesn't even feel right because this movie wasn't done right. It wasn't satisfying, so why do we want to see part 2? Okay, I could go on and on with other negative things about this movie, but let's just stop there. Now I'll go to the positives. First, aside from all my complaints about the zombies, I like the fact that they were different from other zombie movies. In this day and age, you have to bring something new to the table if you want good box office, and this movie gets the job done. We have all seen fast zombies before, and the zombies in this movie are indeed fast, but we have never seen them quite like this before. This is fast zombies times 10. They run extremely fast and they stop at nothing, to the point that they even run off the side of buildings or other high places trying to attack people, or even crash through windshields trying to bite people inside of cars. They are so fast and persistent that even if a huge wall gets in their way, they will just pile on top of each other and keep reaching up until they go over it. That's exactly what happens in Israel, which I already mentioned is the best part of the movie. When it came to the actors in this movie, Brad Pitt, of course, does a very good job. Any criticism I might have against his character or what happened in the movie is nothing personal against him. The story just wasn't very good. I have heard that he was actually a producer on this project, so maybe I shouldn't keep him away from all the blame too much. But that's just how I feel. He is a great actor and I have liked him in every movie I have seen him in, especially through Romance, Seven, and Fight Club. The supporting characters did a good job too. Jerry's wife wasn't bad and I liked her acting, which kept the character grounded and realistic. Some people might complain that she didn't really do a lot in the movie, but she didn't have to. She was there to provide the motivation for the main character to do everything he did and ultimately save the day. David Morse also makes a cameo as an ex-CIA agent. He was in the movie for only about 5 minutes, in one very short scene, so I consider that a cameo. He offers some additional information, but not that much. However, he does clue Jerry that he has to go to Israel. The naval commander, played by David Andrews, did a very good job too. He brought some much needed seriousness or gravitas to the film by playing his character with such a strong commanding presence. Unfortunately, he's not in the movie for too long. Now, let me talk briefly about the ending again. I know I complained about it, but it's actually not a bad ending in itself. It's very original. Like I said, it just didn't belong in this movie. It offered an all too perfect ending to a zombie pandemic, which doesn't really make much sense. Finally, let me say that this movie already came out on DVD and Blu-ray, and there's also an unrated version available. Now, I haven't actually seen it, except for maybe a couple of short scenes I found on YouTube, but from what I noticed, it seems like the unrated version is actually way better than the theatrical version, so I might go back later and do another review. However, let me say that I really don't get the point of unrated versions of films. Like I said on my Evil Dead review, I think everything should be shown to us the first time, on the big screen, where it counts. All that stuff about movies having an unrated version, or special edition, or director's cut, seems to me like just a marketing ploy to sell more DVDs, but who knows. Anyway, that's it for my review. Like I said before, taking into account all the good and bad things with this movie, the end product was just okay. No, it didn't necessarily suck, but it was nothing too special either. But it would make for a good rental. If possible, go for the unrated version. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, I give this movie a 5. Well, thanks for listening. Until next time. Bye.